What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Matt Crowell of Get in the Loop. You can check him out at GetintheLoop.ca. And Matt, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since it's part of the Top SaaS series, I had one of the founders of Zapier on, that with Wade Foster. Super interesting episode, how they grew and built and started Zapier. Also, I had one of the founders of Pipedrive on. Pipedrive, people don't know, it's a CRM for managing your pipeline. It was interesting, Matt, because when I had them on, I think they were like around 10,000 customers. And now I think they have over 100,000 customers. So they've grown quite a bit. Aweber was another one, which is an email tool. And Mailshake was a really interesting one. Sujan Patel was talking about how he's been buying up SaaS companies. And so that was a really cool episode. So check those out more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise25. And at Rise25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We do that by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. And we do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution. You know, Matt, someone was emailing me today and like, yeah, we do all the production and everything, but like the most important thing is the strategy and the accountability part. And so we don't want to lose those pieces. And we're kind of like the magic elves that run in the background and make it look easy for the hosts. They can create amazing relationships, amazing content, and most importantly, run their business. For me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. And I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I have found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. I'm excited to introduce Matt Crowell. He's the founder and CEO of Get in the Loop. Get in the Loop is a mobile marketing SaaS platform. It helps businesses engage the modern consumer. And Get in the Loop helps businesses drive revenue, build awareness, and increase loyalty by driving those customers to their business. It's started in 2014. It's grown to a top-rated iOS and Android app in Canada. It's used by thousands of top national and even local brands. And Matt, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Excited for today.
We'll get into it. I mean, you're past professional hockey player turned SaaS entrepreneur, but just start us off and talk about Get in the Loop. And while you're talking, there is a video portion to this. If someone's listening, I'm going to pull up Get in the Loop website so we can poke around there as well. So just tell us about Get in the Loop.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, Get in the Loop is really built for local business. And what we are is we're like an AI-driven marketing and loyalty platform with the goal of helping small businesses attract customers, retain those customers, and most recently help by helping them maintain a presence on social media. And so we got a team of folks that help support our small businesses venture into the online world. And we're really, really focused on just trying to make marketing yourself easier for small business.
Let's talk. I want to talk about the evolution a little bit of Get in the Loop. I know it started with a golf course and driving traffic. What was the business idea? Were you thinking, I'm going to take a portion, businesses are going to take a subscription? What was the original model with when you're driving people to the golf course?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the true MVP. I was basically like had just finished college, and we were talking with a bunch of friends around how all these great golf courses are so expensive, and we wish we could golf them more often. And came up with a concept because like text message platforms were becoming popular at that point. I was like, what if we created a database where the golf courses could text out deals when they were slow in real time? And so I pitched a few golf courses on the idea, and they liked it. And at that time, we actually launched like with a different business model than today. We actually charged consumers to give us their cell phones, and then the golf courses got to use it to free to give those consumers deals. And so we launched the Golf Loop initially, and started to learn a
How
lot.
did that work? Charging consumers, a dual-sided marketplace is tough, right? Because you're going to the businesses and you're going to consumers. How did that work at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I think when you're trying to build up a stable of businesses that are going to support sort of your marketplace, it was good that we could offer it to free for the business. And then it was all about how many consumers can we get to pay for this. And so, I mean, the subscription was $29 a year. And so the idea was if you went golfing once, you more than paid for the subscription. And it actually came with a 2-for-1 round at a really nice golf course. And so it was kind of like self-fulfilling if a consumer was looking to go golfing.
Did the businesses just want more new customers, or did they require you to pay them also?
They just wanted new customers. And so, I mean, as we evolved, we were kind of coming up in the time that Groupon was going down. And so a lot of how we built our business model was around like kind of trying to fill the gaps that the Groupon model had created. Like taking a big piece of the deal was something that every golf course was very against, and things like that. And so we tried to find our way to be different early on, that's for sure.
It's interesting because, I am in Chicago, and so I saw Groupon from the very beginning. So it was really interesting to see its trajectory, and I talked to a lot of business owners in the area, and they were, Groupon was pretty aggressive in like favoring the business in the beginning to get the business, and then, maybe it was like, who knows, 30%. I don't know what it is today, but it was in the beginning like 30%, then 40, then 50, then 60. And specific businesses, it just doesn't work. Like restaurants, their margins are small in itself. So giving away that amount, especially if it's a nice restaurant, how many times are you going to a nice restaurant? So it's not like a repeat business. So did you see some of that? What were you observing, and kind of how you use Get in the Loop to fill gaps?
Yeah, I mean, early on, that was for sure all the feedback businesses were giving us was like, we can't afford to be giving these huge deals and then you taking a cut. And so we flipped our business model pretty early of like, we're going to charge businesses a subscription to use our tools and to reach out to customers. And then made developed an app that was going to be free. And early on, most of our consumers came to us and said, "Hey, we're not as interested in deals, that you're helping us find cool stuff, local things, and unique brands." And so I think it's because we started in golf, which is kind of a niche thing, anyways. So we kind of focused on that early on. It was a lot of like golf courses and wineries and the cool local coffee shops, and then kind of grew from there. But it was more about what could you help people find locally, and less about the kind of deals we were delivering. We've never been that good at getting great deals.
I want to talk separately because the dual-sided, it's a tough, first of all, you have technology, and then you have to get consumers onto the app, and then you have to get businesses. So let's talk on the business front. So after the golf course, and then people can pay a subscription and use the tools, and that's how it is today, right? How are you getting these businesses onto the program?
Yeah, I mean, we as a company too have like really learned that the important thing was to be building tools for businesses so that they seen value and not have all our value be based on how many customers we deliver, like a Groupon's value would have been, or a coupon companies would have been. So
Because they
like
could use it to acquire their own customers.
yeah, it's exactly like over the years. I mean, some of the reasons a business would use us today is we help you power a promotion strategy. We help keep you top of mind on social. So a lot of what we do with our new social AI feature is all about just helping a business have an automated social presence so that they're talking about what's going on, their wing night or their weekend special, or the fact that they're hiring. Social is such an important thing for business, and that's kind of where we've gone in most recent. Early on, how we got to thousands of customers, it was like a lot of different ways. It was building our own sales team and realizing that was hard. It was partnering with media. So we'd partner with like radio station groups, and their group would take it to the market. We then realized we wanted to build our own franchise network of like local entrepreneurs that went out and talked to small business, which was a really neat venture and helped us get scale across Canada. And so it's there wasn't like, we haven't found that one growth channel that just took off. We've like ground it out to get there, to get to a certain size.
I love it. I mean, you really have like, okay, there's different ways you can use this technology and you've explored these things. And I want to break this down for a second. So radio station groups, that seems like a super smart idea. Talk about how that played out.
Yeah, I mean, it was early on, it was very successful. So naturally, the radio stations, the bigger groups wanted to start in their smaller markets, less risk for them. And so we went into these smaller markets and it was really successful. We would go into a market, we would train up a radio station sales team, and they would go out and start to sign up customers all across the city because they had these relationships. And naturally, like a traditional media company like that is looking to be more digital. So they were loving to go out and say, hey, we've got a tech platform. And, so
when you say customers, is it businesses that they're signing up? Yeah. So the businesses they were signing up, there was a subscription at that point. Were the radio stations, were they kind of individual franchises, or they just kind of have like enterprise plans so they can make a little bit of money?
Exactly it. I mean, they operated similar to a franchise. They were responsible for selling and then marketing the app, but it was more like an enterprise customer for us. And then they would go on air talking about, hey, we got a great deal at the local restaurant and the coffee shop, and download the Get in the Loop app to see all the greatest local businesses, and they would drive a bit of the demand for the businesses using their airtime.
Do you find, Matt? So I'm looking at GetintheLoop.ca. I'm in the enterprise area. Do you find, I see, obviously a use case for these radio station groups. Do you find that agencies also use to help run marketing for local businesses?
A little bit. I mean, we have a few. It would be like a handful of agencies that are our partners and actually bring this to their customers. The one challenge we've always found with agencies, and truthfully, we probably haven't invested enough into the channel, but generally an agency is all about managing the relationship with the customer and doing a great job by them. And for them, it's safer to bring them products that are known, like Facebook and Instagram and everything else that they're hearing. And so although they will try us, that's a risk, because if they're just spending a business's money based on where a customer has heard or thinks they should, that's a bit more simple. So we've never had huge uptake from agencies because we've always been kind of the new thing or a bit more innovative.
So who does tend to use it? Who's like a power user of Get in the Loop?
It would be, so, I mean, if it's a local business, like it would be coffee station or coffee shops, restaurants, we're getting a lot more into the service space. So like electricians, plumbers, folks like that. And then our power users are like our shopping centers and groups like that, where they actually use the platform from an enterprise point of view and basically create a way that all of their tenants are using it to attract customers and kind of working together.
Talk about Night of Lights.
Yeah, that's a pretty special thing that we've been a part of for about 7 years now. So we're a partner of Hillside Shopping Center on Vancouver Island, so in Victoria. And they do this amazing charity where all of the businesses put together a deal for one night, special discounts, and they sell tickets to it through like local schools and sports programs. So all the kids go out and sell tickets. And it's this big thing where there's like a 4-hour door crasher event where they raise a ton of money for charity and create a bunch of awareness, and they open the shopping center up late at night. And they use our technology to power all of that. And so they kind of give all of the people that have bought tickets an early bird view of what kind of the deals are going to be in there. And then they can navigate what's available all through the app. So it becomes like one of our most engaged nights of the year every year. And then we get to be a part of a really cool charity as well. And they're a pretty innovative group, Hillside. So we get to do a lot of fun stuff with them.
That sounds it sounds like a perfect use case too, because it's one big, obviously shopping center, but it's got lots of businesses, local business that can use it. A hiring perspective. So in the beginning, it's just you.
Yeah.
You bootstrap it. I even heard a story where you basically went to pitch it at I don't know what you call it. It was at an incubator event or something like that. And tell that story, because I think it's interesting. I don't know how you won based on the story, honestly. What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think I fell into tech, so it wasn't. I mean, today, it's a lot more known how building tech companies work and the opportunities with them. And early on, this was truly like an MVP. It was just an idea to get some golf deals going for my buddies and I. And as we started to build out the platform and where we thought it could go, I started to pitch. And I went to an angel forum, and with no expectation of what was going to happen. Everybody else was like companies, and they were fairly funded. We ended up winning like, top company and most likely to go public and all of these different things, which was my first experience in like the venture capital realm, where a bunch of folks were coming up and asking me about, oh, where's your deck and your term sheet and what are you raising? And like, I didn't even understand any of the terms. I was like, I don't know. And so I just like put this pocket full of business cards, and I actually left after the lunch because I was like, I'm looking stupid. I can't answer any of these questions. And then kind of from there, that was kind of when Get in Loop was born. Coming out of there, I started to realize like, we're kind of onto something. And then realize just how big the need is for local business to like leverage technology to make a difference. Right. And that's what we've been trying to work hard for the last 10 years.
And I think when you started, you spent less than $1,000 just to get that MVP going. What was the next, like, kind of key hires along the journey for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was an $800 website initially just to get the concept going, and then the big kind of key hires were we ended up having our VP of engineering moved from Germany, and he came to an accelerator event looking for a job and a place to live, and we were able to provide him with both. And so his name's Lucas. So he was like our first, okay, we've got a developer, and like we just luckily got him the first day he was in Canada, and because like we probably couldn't afford him, but it was like the perfect match, and he's still a big part of the team. And then next we actually brought on a CTO, Kaylee. And so being that it was a tech product and I wasn't a developer, I mean, the first few key hires was really on the engineering side. And then as we started to scale customers, it was like customer success, sales, and eventually operators. I don't claim to be the best at running a business, and so needed people that could hold it all together.
What were some of the key features that people were demanding? Because obviously you're iterating the product, you're iterating the, who the customer is from the consumer to the business. What were some of the key features that people were demanding from you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was automation. That's been like the biggest thing because our key customer is a small business, and so everything we've always been working on is like, how do you make it so they don't have to do much? They're flipping the burgers, they're washing the floors, they're doing everything it takes to make that business successful. And so anytime we talk to our customers and get feedback, it's all about, I love what you're doing, but if you didn't have to call me so much, or I didn't have to give you ideas, or I didn't have to play a role in this, it would be even better. And like that's probably the number one thing they've been focusing on, and like that's what we've been focused on the last few years is like, how do you make this turnkey and automated? And we didn't obviously build the technology, but like AI has changed the game for us in that, as like AI is obviously so great at automation. And so like the last couple of years, there's been huge changes in what we could actually provide. It's like, it's really kind of changed how we can go to market and what we can offer a business, because reality was we kind of had to be working hand in hand with them. As much as we were a SaaS tech platform, it was still a lot that small businesses inputs that drove it. And today we're trying to get to the point that it can be a lot more like click and shoot for them.
I did think a good example, I'm going to pull it up here, is obviously you listen to your consumers, customers, and we have social, one of the social AI here, and how some of the retailers on the malls are using it for social. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, a mall has uniquely a pretty decent social following because they got people that are following along to see what the events are, the sales, what time they're open, things like that. And retailers, they're really the content that a mall has. That's the reason people come to them, right? And for years, we've been working with shopping centers, and all the retailers wanted was, how do we get on their website? And so we created like web widgets years ago where we could help all of the retailers' local deals go live to a business or a mall's website. And then with the sort of creation of AI, all of a sudden we could do that with their social as well. And so today, like a big part of why social AI has been so powerful for the shopping centers is we have tons of great content on our platform from all of their retailers. And now we can hook it up. And each day, one of the new retailers' deals goes live to a mall's social profile. So for the shopping center, it's given you great content every day that you can show the following and gives reason for people to come visit. But more importantly, for the tenants, that's huge. I mean, you want to be seen and heard, and you want to be more integrated into what the shopping center is doing. And it's all automated with social AI. So you can imagine that was a lot of people having to talk in the past, and today it's pretty simple.
How do you decide on pricing?
Yeah, I mean, generally, we try and find a price point that's going to allow us to get to that first 100 customers, with a feature or a new product set. And then we have lived in the small business realm, so our pricing has to be as affordable and competitive as we can be. So we try and break down what's this going to cost us to service, onboard, and when will we start to make money as a SaaS platform. And then from there, we try and take it to market and get our first 100 customers. And then generally, we're trying to build features around it that are going to add more value so that we can start to raise the price that starts to make more and more sense for us. Like, as we've kind of gone down the line, it's a balancing act of, scale versus margin on each customer. And, we're still learning.
At what point do you decide to take on funding for the business?
We were kind of we were bootstrapped early on, and then we took on a little bit of investment, and then we kind of grew lock and step where we would grow revenue, the team, and raise money over the years. We got to the point we were breaking even right before the pandemic happened, I guess now 4 years ago. And then when the pandemic hit, we were a big company with a lot of recurring revenue that we lost all of it. And so we had to learn to raise some money again through the pandemic. We raised a few $1 million through the pandemic to keep us going. And then we've been, breaking even or so for the last 15 or so months. And so it's been more out of need and trying to we've always been kind of just looking 6 to 12 months ahead and growing like that. Like, we've never taken on big venture funding. We've never had some big round. It's kind of been like piecemealing it the last 10 years.
And when you raise money, what's the expectation? Do they just want you to grow it as quickly as possible and not worry about making money at first?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first startup, right? And I'm, I guess, 10 years into my career now. And that's changed a lot. So yeah, there was like early on, your first investors are like, Matt just works so hard. Let's give him money. We believe in him. And then it gets a little bit more sophisticated, and they, grow, find an exit. And then there was this phase during the pandemic that was like, grow at all costs. You're not even burning enough. And it was like, oh, okay. And now everybody's like, oh, you better be profitable. And so it's like, as founders, I've learned that the markets and sentiment can change the game. It's because I don't think the actual economics of the businesses change or our goals as much as how the market sentiment changes. I could tell you, I've literally had investment bankers who told me, you're not raising enough and you're not burning enough. You should be growing faster. And then 4 months later are like, you're burning. You can't be burning in this market. And you're like, oh, must be nice to get to create the rules. And so it's like, that's been my experience anyways. It's not simple. And it's my first go around. So I'm hoping I've kind of learned all of the roller coaster that is. And in my next 10 years, I get to leverage some of that knowledge and be a bit more prepared.
What did you learn, Matt, with raising money? It feels like it'd be a full-time job in itself.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, I think if I learned anything is, finding the right investors early and then creating a bit of a story around how we're going to work together to grow the business. Early on, I created this thing that I didn't just want to go meet a bunch of people and pitch. So it was like, hey, you had to refer people into the business. Like, hey, if we're going to raise some money, does anybody know anybody? I'd rather it be connected to the group. And naturally, getting referred on for investment meant I thought I was really good at it, because if people are showing up to referral, you're more successful. And so it's always been like kind of growing like that, like a spider web. It's been based off of our own investors referring us on. And then I think just being very transparent about what I can guarantee. And that is, I'm going to work real hard. My team's going to work real hard. Nobody's going to outwork us. Nobody's going to try harder. But we're in a tech startup space. Like, we aren't a huge established business. It's not clear how we're going to get there. And that's a bit of the risk. And I think we've been pretty transparent the whole time, as transparent as you possibly can be. And that's been the number one focus, is like, be honest, be transparent, and be like very committed to how hard you're going to work. Because I didn't come from this industry. I don't have 20 years of experience in it. Like, I couldn't anchor in those things of like, why am I going to go be successful? So the one thing I could anchor in was like, I'm going to work real hard. And that's the one promise I've made.
Who have been important mentors to you in business throughout the journey?
I mean, I've had so many. I mean, one mentor that's, he's a partner in the business is Mark Payne. He joined very early on and has been kind of anything the business needed over 10 years. But at the same time, probably a sounding board more often than not too. And somebody I've talked to 3 to 5 days a week for 10 years in a row. And he actually lives in the UK. So he would be somebody that I would point to that's been super impactful. And then the thing I've noticed over the years is like you kind of have folks come and go based on the needs of the business and the entrepreneur. You know, when we've been raising capital, I've had amazing mentors. Our CFO today, Coulter Wright, is also a mentor of mine that had a lot more experience, and he's helped me out a ton. You know, when you're trying to grow product or partner with media, anything that we've been doing, I found that you start to find mentors in that space, and then it's like, are you personally connected, and how does that work? You know, and so I leverage mentors a lot. I'm not great at reading, and so a lot of my learning's coming from phone calls and listening to folks that have been there, and I've had a lot of folks that have helped me out over the years. We have like
what was an important lesson or piece of advice from Mark that you remember?
Well, I think it's always like, you know, our motto has always been like, we might not have the best idea, but we'll work the hardest. And, you know, and that's the one thing is like, you know, no matter what, a lot of things can change in the environment that you're in. But like, as long as you know you gave it your best, that's the thing you can be proud of and gets you up every morning. That would be one of the biggest things is like, you know, control what you can control. And that's the effort you put in.
At what point does the franchise come into play? So it starts off obviously with the golf courses. You go to the consumers are paying, then businesses, and you have all these tools for businesses. Where does the franchise piece come in?
It's a funny story. It's a good one. So we were partnered with all these media companies, and we started to get acquisition interest. So everybody wanted to acquire us. We were kind of a young company. We're just growing. And so all of our media partners decided they were going to make me offers, and some good, some bad, some in the middle. Nothing that we were looking for. It was kind of early days. And so we turned down those offers. And then I all of a sudden found out that if you turn down your channel partner's offer to acquire you, they stop selling your product and actually started to compete with us. And so, you know, it was going from this excitement of like, maybe they're going to buy us and like everybody likes us. And then like within a month, it was like, they're all competing against us. Like, I got to go fire them and make a plan. And so we were sitting there like, okay, we're kind of in a few provinces. We're half big, but we're not well funded. And like, what are we going to do? And we had learned a lot through those partnerships that like getting on the ground and talking to local business was important. You needed somebody on the streets. And we thought creating an entrepreneur to speak their language, like a business owner speaking to a business owner, because business owners are always getting sold to. And we thought we could create a different culture around it. And so I kind of came up with this concept that we're going to franchise the platform. And I ended up like building a website in a few hours, and I put it on Kijiji and like started to market it like, hey, join the digital revolution, become a franchise entrepreneur. And like through the first weekend we had it live, like a couple dozen people applied and were like interested in getting a franchise. And it was like, we're on to something. And I think it was timing was right. There was like this digital revolution. People wanted to make money. Entrepreneurship's obviously very popular today. And so it just sort of took off on its own.
And so at the time, people, and I don't know, are there any other SaaS platforms that franchise at the time?
No, and I still don't know if there is too many or is one. At the time, there was no SaaS platform that we had found that had franchised. Now, in variations, I mean, there's a lot of folks, they do it in different ways. I mean, there's licensing agreements and there's local sales and commission reps. And so, I mean, the idea of having somebody have a territory that they represent and add customers to your platform was not ours. But going the full franchising route was definitely something new to our business that we hadn't found out there.
Yeah, because I think at one point you had maybe over 100 franchisees actually. How did you decide to charge for the franchise then?
Yeah, I mean, one of my investors and also a mentor was Cliff Shillington, who led a lot of Remax's growth early on. And I mean, there was no math to this. He was like, yeah, we just charged $35,000 a territory. And I was like, that makes sense. We went with that price. And then we backed in a lot of the money that we took from a franchise fee was just reinvested into that entrepreneur of like getting them going, training on the ground. And so we just made sure that that was enough money to launch their business. And then the only way we made money was them being successful, really. But that was it. Was kind of Cliff mentioned a price, and we're like, okay, let's do that. And then we realized that we were kind of a lot below any other franchise because we didn't have any other costs. Whereas, a traditional franchise, you got to go take out a lease and buy equipment and all this other stuff. And with us, that was it. You could get started right away.
Now, today, you mentioned shopping centers, local businesses, get on the Get in the Loop platform, and they use it to market their business, get in front of consumers. And even, HVAC, carpenters, electricians, anything. Rocky Point Carpentry was one of them. How do they use Get in the Loop?
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're a good example of like just the hole we're filling. So Rocky Point Carpentry has been around for a long time, but the last 5 years they started to build a social following, and so they created an Instagram and a Facebook handle, and they've posted on it 5 times in 4 years. You know why? Because they're building houses and doing renovations, and it's not what they do, but they know they should be there. And so they partnered with us as like, we just need an always on presence. And so we have hooked them up to social AI, and now they're getting posts out live twice a week around the services they offer. Maybe if they're hiring a new member of the team, things like that. So if you were to look at them, they look active, digital, and on the forefront. But the reality is they're still doing the same thing. But it's strummed up quite a bit of new business for them in that their following is now aware. Oh, I didn't realize you guys do closets or things like that. But probably the most important thing we're doing for them is a lot of people go to social media to search the business and get to know them first. And if it looks like you might not be in business anymore, that's a real problem. And so when you go to theirs now, it looks active, it's vibrant, and it tells you what they're doing. And so that's probably the thing we've done most, is just make them seem relevant.
So how does it work? They sign up.
Yeah.
Do they log into a dashboard and then plug something? Because I know it's connected, and it's the social AI can, when I was looking at it, it could do weekly posts. There's a lot of features to it. How does it work from the business side to get it all configured?
Yeah, I mean, from a business's point of view, they basically go through an onboarding checklist. So we kind of understand what their goals are. Hey, I want people to know about my services. I want them to know about some specials. I want them to know about my hiring, whatever that is. And we build content into the Get in the Loop platform. I mean, that platform's been around for 10 years. So it's a platform that helps them, hey, let's come up with a promotion strategy, a contesting or a loyalty strategy. And then we take all of that content, and then it all gets written through AI to like write social posts on their behalf. So it adds hashtags and emojis and switches up the images so it seems creative and all of that. But it's all anchored in what a business is trying to achieve. And generally that could be through a 15-minute phone call, or they could just fill out like sort of an onboarding checklist. And it gets the business thinking about what they're trying to achieve, because that's the other thing that social AI is doing. Even if a business is posting, if you were to look at most local businesses, they're very rarely asking for money. It's like, oh, it's Saturday, or we heard it's pizza week, or or whatever it is, as opposed to like, hey, we have a promotion. Hey, did you know we have a loyalty rewards, or we're looking to hire? And so because they're pre-thinking about the content they want to create, and then that plugs into social AI, that content is backed by a strategy that can make a difference.
What has worked, even from the SaaS interviews and agency interviews, I'm always fascinated by onboarding. And that could be digital onboarding, or actually, like you mentioned, it seems like there's a couple different ways people onboard with you. So I'd love to hear what's worked over the years from an onboarding perspective, and what hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to go to an all digital onboarding right now. And so over the years, I mean, what's worked is spending a lot of time up front with that business to make sure you're aligned and understand their strategy. But in a low cost SaaS model, that doesn't work maybe monetarily all the time. And so trying to create that balance between getting enough info out of that business to make sure you're aligned to their strategy and set them off, but then just be there when they need you. And over the years, we used to overservice so much, and that actually affected churn a lot. The number one thing we did to limit churn was stop talking to our customers. And it's because what it's doing is eventually a business, I'm too busy, I just got to cancel this. Or it's reminding them about it of like, hey, it's an always on strategy. I had a bad financial day today. I should cancel that. Even though like that's not they're not judging how you're doing, how it's performing. It's like they just got a bill they didn't like, and so they're going to cancel yours. And so it's like been a real balance to learn how many touch points and for what reason. And the more and more small businesses are so busy and they're becoming digitally connected, We think it's like, let it be on their time when it works for them. Even booking them into a 15-minute onboarding call. You know how many of those they miss? 75% because they're too busy. So it's like, we're trying to create a world where it's like, we're always here. We want to be somebody that chats to you, but we're trying to create this where it's like, you're a busy business owner. Let's do it on your time and through the click of the button on your phone. So that's where we're trying to go to, is all digital for a small business, all through like email if we can, but we're always there for, the kind of customer that wants to have a quick phone call.
So in addition to email, Matt, are there certain features and things you've built into the site and software to help with the onboarding? What's worked as far as that goes, so that they can kind of do it asynchronously on their own time and when they want? But it's hard because, like, when you're on the phone with someone, it holds them accountable. It's easy to get a lot done, but getting them on the phone is difficult. So what do you do digitally that helps them move them along?
Yeah, I mean, email is the number one thing, really, is like a constant reminders of, hey, you got to update this. So it is a full SaaS platform. And I mean, we work a lot to make it very easy to use. But as an example, with the social AI feature, is one of the things that happens is every week you get an email that tells you about the content that's coming up that week that you can click and edit one step. So they don't have to log into the platform and think about it. It's like, hey, this is what's coming up this week. If there's anything you don't like, you should edit it now. Otherwise, this is all going to go live to your social feeds. And the number one thing that we realize by sending that is you're reminding them of the value every week. It's like, for very little money, you're getting value this week. Here's some social posts that are teed up. And so it's like, it's a real balance of communicating enough, but not too much, right? Or else you become a problem.
There's another interesting, I found, use case with micro farms.
Yeah, it's something that that's where definitely we were onboarding over the phone with those. So we partnered with Tourism Couch out in Vancouver Island again, and it was basically what they're trying to do is different regions. A lot of tourism groups' job is to create awareness and why you would come to that region. And one of the big reasons for that region is they have all these amazing micro farms with the climate there. They have just amazing stuff, but nobody knows about them. And generally farms aren't on Main Street, and they're in the back alleys. And so our app is always location based, and our platform is like really simple to promote the products and services that you're offering. And so we have been supporting, I think it's over 60 micro farms using the platform to promote the fact that, hey, it's time sensitive stuff. We've got apples, but they're fresh for a few weeks, or we've got this new thing that's coming out. And for a consumer, everybody wants to support local today, but it's still not easy to find the local companies. They don't have the dollars and ability to actually get into your social feeds like a big retailer can. And so that's been like a really successful project. We've been working with them for a couple of years now. And it's fun trying to make a difference for a farmer. They're competing against Save On Foods, and so how do you make a difference for them?
I was actually listening to an interview. There's a shout out to Michael Senoff of Hard to Find Seminars, and he was interviewing someone who was making $1 million a year selling fruit from a fruit stand, and it was a fascinating interview on what he learned from like a messaging perspective, and kind of like what you were saying, if he's selling to like stores or wherever, whatever it was, making like $1.50 a bushel, but selling from a stand was making triple that, right? And so it was just interesting where the location they put, the messaging on the signs, and exactly what you were talking about. He was saying one of the things that worked was, whatever it was, fresh pick of the week, because they know, like, first of all, there's scarcity. It could go away. And second of all, it's fresh, right? As opposed to going in, we've been to the grocery store where stuff kind of looks like it's been sitting there for a while. So yeah. I love the micro farm idea. Do you, I know that you're in Canada. What was the reason? I think you stuck in Canada and didn't branch out outside of into the US or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we actually, entrepreneurial lessons, we actually invested quite a bit a couple of years ago to launch into the US, set up a Delaware company and all that stuff you're supposed to get down there. And then we weren't seeing the bounce back in our business in Canada, where it felt like we were ready to stretch ourselves into the US, like we're well capitalized enough and just in the right headset. I mean, we are now with social AI looking at expanding into the US again, because it's a lot more remote. We're less location-based and community-based and more like a business set of tools today. But yeah, we thought about that a couple of years ago, put quite a bit of investment into doing it. And then at the last minute, we're like, we're not ready and slowed down, but we're getting there again. And the intention is to get down into the US again.
I feel like I'm curious what you think your superpower is in business. From an outside perspective, it feels like you're really good at building partnerships that stuck out in the journey. What has worked well for you in building these partnerships? Whether it's, I mean, shopping center is kind of a partnership, these radio networks, these media networks. What's worked with forming these, one-to-many partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of how a company goes to market or how an individual kind of becomes successful is to me, I'm naturally curious. I ask a lot of questions and I truly care. I mean, I think that's why I was successful in raising money. And I think partnerships are kind of the same way, is like, in a startup, people have to take a chance on you. You're not what everybody else is buying. And so they need to know that you care. And that's been the number one thing that I've brought to most of the partnerships we've done, is like, they know I'm going to give it my all. They know that we have the technology capabilities of executing, but a lot of it is really understanding the other side. If you're able to understand the other side, you're able to pretty quickly show value. And I think we're good at asking a lot of questions.
Matt, I have one last question. Before I ask it, I want to just point people to Get in the Loop. You can check it out, GetintheLoop.ca. If you're in Canada and you are a business, check it out, or because if you're a consumer as well. My last question is, what's next for Get in the Loop? Obviously, you keep building on, and you've been doing this for a long time now. What's on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the next real big thing is continually add features and functionality to the social AI product that we've launched here. We're hearing a lot from our first 100 customers on what they want out of that, and so the next thing is like adding micro boosting to that, and really just continuing to develop on the momentum we have there, and then trying to get into the US. As most Canadian startups view success as, of course, it's great to be across Canada, which we are, but really hitting scale and getting successful is by proving that you can do this in the US. And that's the next step for the company, is we believe that the new direction of being more of a set of tools allows us to expand into the US pretty simply. And that's really the next big thing we need to do, is conquer getting into the US and then growing successfully throughout the US.
Man, I wanted the first one to thank you. Everyone, check out GetintheLoop.ca to learn more and more episodes of the podcast. We will see everyone next time. Matt, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
Matt. See you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.